Hi, my name's Emily and I have a type of motor neuron disease. In this video, I'm going to introduce you all to my strategy for gaining muscle mass and strength. To start, I wanted to give a brief overview of motor neuron diseases because it can be a little confusing with the whole motor neuron disease, ALS, is there a difference? So motor neuron diseases exist on a spectrum of upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron degeneration. And so on one end, the upper motor neuron degeneration side, you have more of the spasticity. And so that's where you find your primary lateral sclerosis and HSPs. And then on the lower motor neuron end of the spectrum, on the other side, you have more predominant just muscle atrophy. And so that's where you see your primary muscle atrophy, like PMA. And then in the middle of those two ends of the spectrum, you have ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, where you have a combination of upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron involvement. And so that's where you see both the spasticity, muscle weakness, atrophy, and degeneration of both the upper and lower motor neurons definitively. And so I fall more on the upper motor neuron end of the spectrum because while I do have the muscle atrophy and weakness, I predominantly have more upper motor neuron symptoms. So yeah, it's a whole spectrum. All right, so now that that's out of the way, it's now time to talk about the muscle atrophy strategy. Hi, currently editing the video, and I realized I have not issued a disclaimer. Please don't try any of this at home without consulting a doctor first. And if you have any medical concerns or questions, please also talk to your doctor. So first and foremost, with the motor neuron disease, you have to actively engage the muscles by movement. And so a few of my past videos are on the research behind the beneficial effects of exercise and some of my electrical stimulation I use to actively engage the motor neurons and hopefully prevent further degeneration. Prior to starting exercising, I was actually in a knee brace because my condition started in my right leg, and so my right leg was so weak to the point that the knee would dislocate if I got into a chair wrong, and it was like hyperextending, and it wasn't good. It was a hot mess. So I tried doing the traditional, what I call land physical therapy, but for me, I was too weak to be able to effectively do all of those exercises and strengthen my leg. So I actually saw the most benefit in the beginning from water therapy, because in the water you can cancel out some of the body weight that you have to move around. So it was very helpful. And I was actually able to strengthen my knees and legs to a point where I was able to walk on land without the knee brace anymore. And so once I had that level of success, I actually transitioned to working out in a gym because I had plateaued in the therapy setting. So when I transitioned to working out in the gym, I was making those small improvements, however, at a very slow rate where it was like, this is not satisfying. This is very mind numbing, and you're just crossing your fingers hoping that what you're doing is working. So for exercise ideas, I would watch these bodybuilding YouTube videos because I was like, all right, I gotta mix things up. If I'm not making these big gains, I might as well be doing some fun stuff. And so while I was watching those videos, I realized that the people who were the strongest and having the biggest gains were taking these exercise supplements. And at the time, I had an internship through the National Science Foundation where I was doing research. And while I wasn't doing research on neurodegeneration or muscle atrophy or any of that, during my lunch breaks, I would go into the medical research I had access to, and I would start looking up all these different supplements, trying to see what do these things do. I actually found that there was research showing those supplements to be beneficial in people who had different types of muscle atrophy than what I had. They had sarcopenia or muscle atrophy due to lack of use or old age. And so after reading the safety data and reading all the different studies, I was like, you know what, why not? So I went on Amazon and I ordered myself some supplements. So after experimenting, I found a combination of supplements and exercise and diet that really worked great for me. So I started the supplements in August 2016, and by May 2017, I had gained 25 pounds, and I had considerably increased my strength from doing just like body weight squats to squatting 180 pounds. And there were other metrics too, but that was just the easiest to be like, I gained strength. So muscle grows when protein synthesis is greater than muscle breakdown. And so through the exercise, you're able to get a muscle breakdown, which allows you to then grow new muscle through protein synthesis. The first supplement we are going to discuss is creatine. And so creatine is the most studied exercise supplement. One benefit is that it increases energy production, thus increasing the workload your body can handle, resulting in greater gains with exercise. And so when you're able to increase the amount of workload, you're able to increase the potential for new muscle growth. There's actually a decent amount of studies on creatine and motor neuron diseases, ALS specifically, because creatine can also function as a glutamate inhibitor similar to Rilotec. A lot of these studies, though, they don't incorporate exercise, so there's no significant improvement noted. However, you see a significant increase in strength in the patients who exercise and take creatine at the same time. And that's also what I've found, because when I take the creatine while exercising, I see improvement. However, if I just take creatine, I notice no significant difference. Research has also shown that creatine lowers oxidative stress levels. The exact mechanism is unknown, but it has shown to increase the activity of antioxidant membranes. One interesting thing is that creatine is one of the up-and-coming therapies being researched for traumatic brain injury and spinal cord injuries. So that's fascinating, and I'll put a few titles up here if you're interested in seeing that, because I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Okay, moving on to the next part of the equation. Now that we have actively engaged the motor neurons and increased the amount of protein of muscle breakdown through exercise and creatine, we must now increase protein synthesis. So the first piece to that puzzle is having an adequate protein intake. So I'm just going to briefly touch on the diet portion here. So to maximize resistance training gains in muscle mass and strength, I try to consume 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram a day of protein. I read over a few papers and I found a great meta-analysis where it compares different protein intake levels and gains in muscle mass and strength. And so they found the sweet spot to be that 1.6 to 2.2 range. That's the range that I usually like to stay in, because that's where I see the most benefit. Proteins broken down into amino acids. There are 20 total amino acids, 9 of which are considered to be essential, and 3 of those essential amino acids are called branched chain amino acids, and those are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. I also supplement with the branched chain amino acids on top of the adequate proteins intake. And the theory is that since it has 3/9 of the essential amino acids, that it might increase protein synthesis. Some studies have shown that whey protein, which is a whole protein source, can be more effective than supplementing with branched chain amino acids. However, I am extremely lactose intolerant, and my body can't handle whey, which is why I supplement with the branched chain amino acids. So there is research showing that branched chain amino acid supplementation can decrease muscle atrophy. Now, there is some research and hypotheses that supplementing with branched chain amino acids could be neurotoxic. There's a correlation between professional athletes, namely Italian soccer players, and higher rates of getting ALS, and so they think, oh, maybe the supplementation is the mitigating factor. However, correlation does not mean causation, and for me, I've found a net benefit, so that's why I continue to take it. One paper published in 2019 investigated the relationship between branched-chain amino acids and the risk of ALS. They did a pooled analysis of 5 different cohort studies and found that there was no significant association between plasma levels of branched-chain amino acids and the risk of ALS. So the next piece of the puzzle is glutamine supplementation, because supplementing with glutamine can increase the efficacy of branched-chain amino acid supplementation. Glutamine is the most abundant amino acid in the human body, and it's located in the small intestine. When glutamine in the small intestine decreases, the branched-chain amino acids in the muscle break down into glutamine and alanine, and the skeletal glutamine then goes to the small intestine, and so that contributes to muscle atrophy. So by supplementing with oral glutamine, the skeletal glutamine remains in the muscle and there's a suppression of muscle atrophy. There's actually a study that came out trying this strategy in rats where they basically did a procedure that induced muscle atrophy, and they did a model where they supplemented with glutamine and branched amino acids, and there was an attenuation of muscle atrophy. So that is the conclusion of my strategy for muscle atrophy. It's basically how I maximize the effects of exercise and really just get the most bang for my buck. So as long as I keep up with this system, I'm able to increase my strength, gain weight, maintain what I have. However, if any piece of this drops off, I start declining. This is just what works for me, not necessarily what's going to work for everyone else, but just wanted to share it because, I don't know, it's kind of niche, I guess. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed. I really appreciate it. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe if you liked what you saw here today. And yeah, I hope y'all are having a good one. Bye!